Hey guys, what's going on? Hope you guys have been enjoying the content on the channel as of late. I literally just recorded the Alien review, so excuse me if it looks like I just went from one spot to the next. You know what I mean? It's like as if you pause this video or ended this video and then you jump to the next video. It's like, you know what I mean? I just literally just am recording the next video just because I have recorded this once and it was like a 30-minute video, and for some reason my drive will not accept that big chunk of video, so I'm gonna like condense my thoughts as little as possible as I discuss something interesting. We've kind of touched on this before, so frankly I don't need to get as deep. I kind of rambled quite a bit. I kind of went on a tangent about this, so I'll just kind of condense my thoughts just to make it more bite-sized. So and it's to do with the idea of comedy, about, you know, in film, you know, the extents of comedy. And this was brought up by Vince Vaughn's comments. He was talking about how studios are not as willing to make a specific kind of comedy, or kind of like suggesting that R-rated comedies don't exist, or that they don't push the boundaries as much anymore, and and how he thinks that, you know, people coming up in the industry, aka youthful, you know, young people like myself, should be given free reign on material and not be so restrictive. So I have sorry, my throat's a little dry. I have a, like, I've had a view on this. It's not a popular view. It's also like, I would like, my view on comedy is very specific. You know, I'm not above like, fuck, sorry. Someone's just, I don't know what was going on. Anyways, my view of comedy has always been very specific, because on one hand, I'm not against like, you know, kind of off-colored, you know, type humor. I'm not against that type of thing. Like, yes, I mean, it is to some extent funny or shocking when someone pushes the button sometimes. Like, I'm not, you know, completely, you know, a bummer in that regard, but here's the thing, like, some of the material or some of the things, like it's one thing to be offensive and all that, but it's like, it's another when you're just outright just being a jerk. There, you know, there's that line that people don't really walk. They more or less lean on being that of a bully, and it's not great. You know, a lot of these comedians that are coming up, like, I've seen some videos of like some young comedians, and they're not funny. They're really not, because they do like one of two things. And I said this in the video that I did, like, it's usually one of two things now in terms of what's funny. It's either shock value, aka say the most vulgar thing possible because we need people to respond, you know, because we can't craft clever jokes. We're not capable of writing clever jokes, because that's the thing. Like, if you're to do something offensive, but if you deliver it in a way that is clever, I'll give you props for it, because at least there's thought put into it, you know. There's okay, well, how do I make this to where it's funny, but it's addressing a controversial topic, but I'm not going out of my way to make a point about that subject or to attack somebody. You know, being very, very careful in how you deliver it, but still finding a place to laugh, you know? Like, that's fine. I don't mind that. And I know I've seen comedians do that, where they do go over, you know, they go beyond what is considered, you know, the parameters, you know, like stuff like that. And sometimes it lands because of how they craft their jokes, you know? And you can tell it's crafted because it's calculated, and that's, you know, like, a lot of my favorite comedians are honestly like very cynical. Like, I like the ones who just are flat out just talking. You know, I don't mind those who just have a skit, you know, or a script. You know, like those are fine sometimes. But my general preference has always been people like George Carlin, for instance, like a dude who's just talking. You know, like George Carlin's a guy who's just talking. He's not a guy who's ever, I feel, scripted out things. He's just a guy who's just really uh, just you know, just kind of letting his thoughts fly, but his manner of delivering it is honest because it's his opinion, but at the same time it's also it's funny in how he is literally projecting it, you know. So, you know, or someone like Dave Chappelle, who, I mean, he's definitely controversial, absolutely, but again, it's just like he's just the type of guy who's just talking, and in his ramble, it's funny, you know. And that's what I mean by cynicism, where I like those types of comedians where it's just like kind of like angry older dudes, or at least that type of manner. It's funny in that, you know. Like, you know, that to me is what's funny. And to me, typically speaking, comedy is either that or cleverness, you know. That's what to me a comedy is. You know, it's comedy is spawned from writing. That's where it comes from. You know, either it's the physical act of literally writing down the joke, or it is in your head creating that statement, you know. So it's always been a writing, you know, a writer's, you know, playground. So for there to not have any of that, it's just not coming off as a profession as much as it is just being a bully in my eyes. Because a lot of these comedians nowadays, they go by the impulse of two things: either let's just say something really fucking crazy without any context, without any like understanding to the audience that, hey, look, I don't mean any judgment, I'm just here to just, you know, we're just here to crack a joke, you know, it's not, I'm not here to make a statement or whatever like that, you know. Or the other side of that, which is making statements, engaging in politics, you know, like just bringing up the word Trump apparently is now just hilarious. You know, it's always been hilarious, you know, for a lot of people, specifically that of the left-wing party, you know, blah 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 blah, all that stuff. But that's where politics have gotten into. I mean, look at fucking SNL. SNL used to be like, SNL used to be funny. It used to be fucking funny, but now it's all just politics. Like, just fucking just like basically just a liberal show, you know. And it's so fucking just like, ugh, like there's a reason why no one talks about it anymore. Like, it's just completely lost its identity because it's gotten so involved in the political scene that now it's like, that's pretty much all it is now. It's just political show, you know. And that's sad, and because that's also an illustration of the writers, you know, the writers who come on to the scene, you know, those young people that Vince Vaughn is talking about. I mean, you can look at SNL as almost an example of what this generation's type of humor is, which is, as I said, it's either let's say something really fucking crazy, or we just bring up Trump, we just bring up politics, you know. Like, that's what's funny now. And to be frank, it's just like legitimate humor in that, like what I'm addressing, the impulse to be shocking or talk about politics. It's just really not that funny. I mean, what's funny about bringing up like really dark stuff just for the sake of bringing it up, you know? Like suicide, all that stuff. Like, I'm not joking. There's people out there who have probably talked about shit like that, you know? Like, some people that I've watched, I know, can get to those dark areas, and I just decide to turn that off because I'm not gonna get privy to that, because that's just completely wrong, you know? I think it's inappropriate to go into those types of places because that's just, you know, there has to be some level of humanity that comes into it as well. Little bit of respect, you know, because like I said, then you start to become that bully type that a lot of comedians, these young comedians, are. There's like comedians who just fucking scream at their audience now. There's like one comedian that I saw that apparently he was like one of the younger, like, yeah, a young person, like someone like my age, up doing a stand-up act, and someone got offended, and instead of him either working it into his bit, which a lot of comedians usually do, he just starts fucking screaming at her, and this poor lady is like basically just verbally abusing this poor lady. And it's an old lady, by the way, and frankly the joke that he made, to my memory, was not that great, and rightfully so. I think that he got, you know, a talking to. And it's like, you know, it's just, even if the joke wasn't in poor taste, right, even if it was a fair joke, the fact of the matter is that the attitude that's on stage, the fact that, oh, I need to just yell now, I just need to just talk this lady down, that to me is just like, and keep in mind, from what I remember of the video, the audience fucking liked it. And that's fucking sad that audience members today find that funny. Find that specific kind of person to be funny. And not, wow, you're a fucking asshole, or wow, you're pathetic, or wow, you are such a man-child, you know? Like, that's what I'm thinking when I saw that video. But that's apparently not the majority today when it comes to what is funny, you know? And I say all this in addressing the Vince Vaughn thing, because let's bring it into film now. Like, the types of those types of people are going to be running the show. You know, those are the types of people who are going to be producing these films. Frankly, if it's going to be either a political statement or just doing crazy shit just to do crazy shit, what you're doing basically for that business is drowning them in controversy. You're just giving them no choice, excuse me, but to be bathed in controversy, which is not ideal for a business. Businesses want to avoid controversies. They don't want to be, I mean, unless you're fucking Disney, they don't want to be active in politics, you know? They want to be away from all that. So, especially film companies, they want to stay away from that. I mean, some companies, like I said, like Disney, they just don't give a fuck. They'll just go ahead and dip their hands into it, you know, like whatever, right? But other companies just would prefer to stay neutral on the matter, you know. And you know, I think even Disney would not want to do something like that, you know, an R-rated, you know, type where it's like completely, you know, vulgar and all this shit. It's like, I just don't. Yeah. And those films that do exist, because there are R-rated comedies that exist, Vince Vaughn's just full of shit. Those films do exist. The issue is just that the quality of those films are usually not that great, because, like I said, it's usually extremists or it is politics. It's just, that's one of the two. Look at Strays, for example. That film, I think, is terrible. And the reason why I think it's terrible is because it's using animals and putting them in a behavior that is just so, like I said, so extreme, but it's just not, it's that type of extremes that it's where it's no longer funny, you know? And it's also at the same time like extremely casual. Like, we're talking about fart jokes and this and that. Oh, look, dogs can cuss. It's like, really? That's funny? You know? Like, and then, you know, dogs tripping on acid. It's like, how is that funny? You know? Like, there's no middle ground when it comes to the kind of humor that is creeping in, or has been creeping in within this new generation, ultimately is being considered the norm of today. You know, there's no middle ground with that. There's no, oh, well, I can sit with this and that's fine, or, oh, you know, hey, he's just cracking a joke, it's fine. No, it's, wow, that dude's being a fucking bitch. Or, okay, that person is making a political statement. That's all it is today. And I understand why film companies are going, yeah, no, we're not going to invest into that because we're not going to drown ourselves in controversy. Just because you feel like you want to make a specific point or do something out of a certain desire, a exaggerative, I don't know, stuff like that. It's like companies don't want to involve themselves in that shit. So, for my money anyway, just to keep this short, just because we're going on 15 minutes now, like, my opinion of like comedy is today is that I don't like, or humor, we'll say today. I just don't like how it's very specific now, you know? And I also don't like the fact that it is hindering less on cleverness, aka good writing, and hindering more on just on aesthetic, by visuals, by just shock value, by politics. I don't like that, because I wouldn't say it's grooming, but it's just like it makes me feel like I have like no other, like, how do I say this? It's like it doesn't create an inclusive environment. It just makes it very exclusive. You have to be this kind of asshole to enjoy this. Like that's the way I'll put it. You have to be this kind of asshole to enjoy this, and or that just kind of warped, to enjoy that kind of humor, and I don't really love that kind of humor. I can appreciate certain kinds of humor in that effect when it's, again, with clever writing, and it has, like, you can tell when a comedian, within addressing something offensive or whatever like that, you can tell. I know it sounds kind of weird what I'm saying, but you can tell when they're being respectful. You can tell when it's just a crack. They don't mean anything by it. They're not trying to set off any alarms or trying to cause any this and that. You can tell when it's just a joke. It's just a small joke. No harm by it. No, like, oh, fuck you, you're such a whatever. It's just, hey, it's just a joke. But then there's a lot of times, it seems, where people think they're like that, but they're really not. They're just acting like assholes. And I can totally get why a studio would be like, you know what? No, we don't want to involve ourselves in that capacity because we don't want the internet to be talking about this. We don't want this and that. We don't want to drown ourselves in controversy. Like, no. Companies want to actively avoid controversy if they can. Or if you're like Disney, you just don't give a shit. So, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's just where comedy is going, and it's devolving. It's devolving now, more or less, to just bullies saying mean things, and not clever or intellectual, nothing like that. None of that's happening. Like, I would love someone like a George Carlin to exist today. George Carlin was so fucking intelligent and so oddly wise. Like, when you watch that man's humor, it's just him talking. It's him, like, rambling on philosophies, but it's just his manner of delivering it is funny, because he's honest and he's brutal. Where's those guys? And within his delivery, it's also very clever, and not offensive at all, even though he at points would probably touch on politics or touch on, very, like, oh, okay, icky stuff. He was at least extremely clever about it and not at all disrespectful towards the actual discussion or topic, at least to what I've seen of him and his stand-ups. So Not like that today, unfortunately. Just a lot of just insults and not jokes, if you were to ask me. So with that, I understand why you're not getting a specific kind of film, but at the same time, it's sad to say that that specific kind of film seems to become an occurrence only a few times, but in those few times, it is the loudest voices in the fucking room. You know, like we just talked about last year with like No Hard Feelings and all these other films where it's just like the shock value is still always going to be there because that's what the audience seems to be gravitating towards. But I also understand that hesitation with studios where they're like, I don't know if we want to go there. I don't know if we want to allow that, you know? Like, I get the hesitation, but at the same time, it's like, if that's where the money's at, I get why some companies may be like, yeah, okay, sure, let's give it a go, you know? So it just sucks. It just sucks. I just wish that legitimate comedy came back was still a thing, but it just doesn't today, if you ask me. Like I said, more insults than jokes than anything. So, but those are my thoughts. Hopefully, my thoughts were addressed in a good way. Because sorry, I just feel a little bit lightheaded. I need to get some dinner right now. But hopefully I was clear on my points. But you guys know your thoughts. I'm sorry, my surfboard. Sorry. Sorry. Like I said, I need to eat. But you guys know your thoughts on this topic. Do you guys think comedy is just in a very different place? I really think it is. But if you guys think differently, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Let's all be polite as well. You know, no like bringing up politics and shit. If anyone wishes to comment, like, please just don't engage. I mean, if you want to, you want to. I mean, it's your right, but just, you know, just be respectful, you know. But let me know all your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's gonna be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.